Okay, hello everyone. I'm a bit nasally, but I thought okay, whatever. Let's share an episode. A sentence arose to me today. When heaven reincarnated on earth. I'm someone who in the previous lectures have talked about initiating movements towards the advanced civilization on this planet. The advanced civilization can be said to be the idea of building paradise on Earth. Phase 2 of Mr.Within Civilization 2.0 is Earth Heaven. I'm writing about all of this in the future. You know, there's a part of me that's a futurist at heart, guys. The future is not something to be afraid of. The future is something to prepare how we're going to manage our fascination. By the way, there will be coughs and, miscellaneous noises in this episode. Excuse that. I'm reaching a very important checkpoint of these lectures. The idea of the advanced civilization is the idea of building paradise on Earth. We wonder about this idea. It's a very interesting idea, but we wonder about how practical is it or how valid is it through even a theological lens. You know what human beings are doing on this planet? They're playing multidimensional dress-up. Everybody is dressing up their worldviews in accordance to what is real to them. But what is real to them is only their reality. To think about the idea of how would it be possible to build paradise on Earth. The idea would be it would have to be a being that is familiar with paradise. Interestingly, in the monotheistic theological view, man was a divine creation of a divine creator, and he made a mistake, and now he's experiencing the absence of that divinity. So we were in heaven, everything was in heaven, and then Earth appeared. Now even the theological mystery of where is Earth? Anyways, excuse me, guys. Tonight's episode, I'm kind of had a very long day. I'm just trying to get the ideas out there and kind of, keep it short. But really, the idea is I'm trying to get the attention of our species to that concept of, is it possible to build paradise on Earth? And I'm starting with this idea that, okay, if somebody wants to, if there's a being that wants to build, let's say we build paradise on Earth and we try to reverse engineer how we built it. So it would be, in some sense, you imagining an advanced civilization in your inner realms, right? And then reverse engineering from that advanced civilization in your inner realms to your own outer realms. And you will be fascinated and you will attain, I would say, the genius line. You will pass the genius line. The genius line is this is an idea I have. What it means is it's a secret of polymaths. The common denominator of ability in all moments. It's the presence of what trusts it. I have in my inner realms strolled through many probabilities, future probabilities of the human species. I've written about this, talked about this, but I'm sharing with the species. Think of it this way. Let's say instead of paradise, we said, how do we build like a good place? And then we were like, okay, we need good people. Okay, and then the next question would be, how do we find good people? It's another way of saying, before we can build paradise on Earth, how can we find, the paradise builders on Earth? We have to find the paradise builders, And so the paradise builders is this notion of the futurist that actually lives for the future. Like, for example, I'll give you an example. Elon Musk is a paradise builder. I'm trying to be in the inner realms of man, being a paradise builder. But what is the idea of a paradise? Like, what's the idea of a heavenly place? Is it an eternal loop of happiness? No. It's literally this notion that we don't know, but one day, obviously, we will know, or we may know. So we wonder about how we can know. Believe it or not, every person in their inner realms has an expectation of their species. And I will make an argument that I think 90% of human beings on Earth are convinced that the species will fail. Unacceptable. Seriously. As long as we are here, if we can't serve the moment, then it's kind of pointless, right? Why we're here. Some people, they live their whole lives. At the end of their life, they're like, yo, was I a spiritual being? And what if you were a spiritual being from the beginning? Just consider, what if you were a multidimensional being? What if your consciousness was being broadcasted from an inconceivable dimension? You see, I'm a human being, I'll be honest. I'm an individual human being who realized there's death. That means there's an ending where all like candles and the flames are there. And I was like, yo, what kind of civilization is this? Civilization 1.0, I call it, where all these candles, their light is being wasted. Right? And I was like, yo, what's the solution? Do we give everybody emotional freedom, but then the world will go nowhere because everybody's going their own way? And then I thought, no. The idea has to be fascination. And you might not believe it, but all my agenda, all my doctrine, all my philosophies in this world is what I have been fascinated by. And when you realize what the edge of knowledge is, you discover the unknown variables of first your own life, then the collective life. Do you understand? It's way more than just a character in a story, happy ending or tragic ending kind of thing. Oh dear humanity, beyond duality, you have a life. In ancient yogic thought, those guys were so next level. Imagine being like this guy who's like, imagine being like this like kid or let's say this guy in your like mid-20s, and back in the day there was no like internet, there was no like, you know, access to the information age, and people learned from people had the knowledge, right? So that's when wisdom had a value. Nowadays wisdom is like one person says it and everybody accesses. Human civility is a testament to the wisdom that worked, you know. That yogi would go find some enlightened guy in the mountains, you know, Mahatma. And he would go to the enlightened guy and be like, yo man, I have nothing else to do in this world. I don't know what to do. You know, in yoga, they say this world is an illusion and you can awaken from this illusion. So help me out, right? Like that was the idea. And the enlightened guru, you know, if he was truly enlightened, he would say, okay, you want me to help you? First, you got to figure out who you are. How can I help you if you don't know who you are? That means the question comes, how can you help an unknown being? This might be bizarre, but this dimension could be the only dimension where the idea and concept of helping exists. Do you understand? The human being is fragile in its biological system. Fragile, I mean, it's like, you know, you know, we're like a conditional biological organism, right? And so because life is fragile, we have to adjust to the maintenance of this. Do you understand? You know, there was a time I wanted to really go into the career path of an athlete, just become a footballer, you know, a soccer player. And then I was like, yo, but that would be kind of like as if the purpose of my life is to just maintain my existence, biological existence. Do you understand? This world is strange. It's kind of like unknown beings in an unknown world, but there's something to do because knowledge is accessible. What is knowledge? And this is where you have to realize, and I never finished what I wanted to say about the kid going to the enlightened guy. Some yogis, the disciple would go and the enlightened guy would say, you have to remember your divine memory. And the guy would be like, what do you mean I gotta remember my divine memory? And the person would say, just like how you are being a self, every being has a universal self. That means your self, your physical, biological self, is based on the moment you were born on this earth. Okay, from the moment you were born, like you're on this earth, and then the moment, let's say, you transition out of this earth. Right? So then the yogi is saying, yo, while you're in this human life, you have to realize your universal life. Your universal life is not a human. Your universal life is the beginning of the universe. That means it's as if, imagine a universe wanted to remember everything that has happened to it. It's literally the memory of a universal being. That means, and in those circles, the yogi would say, yo, go wonder about your presence beyond your personality. You know, metaphysics, spirituality is not for those who are still wondering about the physical. It's those who've wondered about the physical and they're like, what else? Are we convinced? Is it enough? Is the brain the most accurate decoder of perception, or is everything like an abstract theorization close as possible to reality, to an unknown reality? Like, what's going on here? You know, when I was younger, I was like, yo, man, am I living to die, or am I dying to live? I couldn't tell which one. You know, it's like, which one am I? Where am I being pulled to? And I realized this took me 30 laps around the sun to realize this, okay? It took me 30 years of life to confront death. And you know how I confronted it? I realized that's the roller coaster ride's journey. That seems to be where everything is going. We have for no reason been afraid of a destination, but the idea should be, what do we do with this mysterious life form we're being right now? Okay, we've named it human. We've given it language, right? So I've come into a world where the whole world has been entranced by incredible linguistic characterhood, right? And I'm like, okay, now I gotta be a character among characters, and let's see what these characters can do. Like, what else can individual egos do, right? There was a time where people loved the ego. You know, they thought it was a symbol of power. You know, they thought, like let me tell you what it is. The young soul thinks power is external. The old soul knows all power arises internally. What does that mean? That means you are being energy and attention instantaneously existing. So regardless of what you think or not, thought is like another room. Imagine your mind is like that Matrix movie hallway. Okay, and thought and characterhood and language, these are just a few doors. Okay, there's even one door of the mind that is purely geometric. Purely, it's like Plato's world of forms. It's kind of like you log into it, or as if you realize everything has a geometrical truth. Everything has a spatial truth. Everything has, in some sense, whatever is being experienced is being considered the truth of the consciousness. Consciousness is the candle in the dark room. Whatever is there is being its truth. Do you see what I'm saying? So my attitude was that I'm going to walk towards the future. I'm not going to fear the future. I realized the past is past. What can I do? I'm not the same person I was yesterday. And then I was like, the present is just waiting, with no briefing, with no analysis, just as if so many people are just hovering peacefully. It's like, wow, you managed to live like a tree when you were a human. Why do you think we are the most advanced species on this planet? And we think we have to go back into just living in nature. Like, you know, it's like, God bless nature. I love nature. You don't know how many experiences I've had in nature. But my attitude is, why is the mind here? Right? The ego is closest thing to an extraterrestrial technology. You might not believe it, but in the inner realms, the paradise on earth can be built instantaneously through vision. In the outer realms, it must come through massive micro victories. Do you understand? In the inner realms, you could just instantly see the victory out, like long-term victory. But in the outer realms, it's micro victories. Do you understand? That means 8 billion human beings have to start every day of their life, in every situation they are, forget the storytelling, forget the cultural programming, and ask themselves, as an intelligent being present in this realm, what is the advanced qualities of my attention? What is unique to my DNA? I'm not trying to say like everybody's like a mutant from the X-Men Academy, right? But I'm saying our DNAs are different. That means our perceptions are different. That means our access to reality is different. That means what we can do with reality is different. We are the potential of an advanced civilization is right in front of us and also behind our eyes. So in some sense, once the confidence is there behind our eyes, once we realize honestly, I've thought about it. I was like, what is this? There's an emotional wheel. There's all these senses of self you can be. There's psychologists, be looking at the, let's say, client and being like, yo, man, your psychology is fragmented. You were at war, like in a war field, and you have PTSD and you have fragmented psyche, And little do we realize emotions is a fragmented psyche. I feel like this in one moment. I feel like that in one moment. We are living like multidimensional beings, but in the outer realms acting like we're an individual freaking physical abstract position. Do you understand? When will the world wake up to this realization that we are unknown beings? And do you know why? No teacher can say this. And this is why only some guy named Mr.Within can say this. My title is consciousness. I'm consciousness here. Somebody's like, yo, what are you qualified for? I'm qualified to be conscious of reality as a presence. Because the mystery of my mind is so bizarre that my brain is in my body, but my whole body, when I experience the moment, my body is in my mind, and so is the world. That's the beautiful geometry of, I would say, celestial architecture. Recently I've been questioning it. I had a very intense Discord debate, discussion. But it was a very cool discussion. And the discussion was the idea of like, how should we live here? Should we focus on just our individualism, which makes sense, great argument? Or should we think of like the species? Should we live like an individual being and have the responsibilities of an individual, or should we live like a collective being and have the responsibility of a collective presence of humanity? That means, should we feel like a species right now, or should we feel like a human being lost in a world? Right? Mr.Within is saying, yo, you all look like each other, you're a species, good enough, run to the future and advance. What advancement means is that the first important thing about advancement is to realize that your mind is literally like, you can put an equal sign to being the future. The future is existing as the experience of your mind, of your whole moment. When you become conscious that your awareness is literally like the proximity of the glow of the candle flame, once you discover the nature of your own mind, it's being acquainted with space. So just like how you're comfortable with your body, like moving it, right? Believe it or not, you're actually being comfortable with the space and then you move. Because if you're not comfortable with the space, just like in fear movie scenes, the person goes into paralysis. Do you understand? The human being is a very interesting creature because it's playing a melody. The psychological, like our minds, our behaviors. When I was younger, I was like, yo, what does it mean some people have personality and some people are like dull, or like dead wood personalities or something? And I was like, what is this? What do these people have? I'll give you an example. When I was in high school, I was like this shy, like, Eastern cultured kid who'd come to Canada, in grade 9. Okay? And I remember there was this one kid, right, who everybody, like, I don't know what it was. This kid was like, I don't know if he was enlightened or cheerful or like smart or like helpful or something. There was something about this guy that he was like the enlightened kid in the school. That means everybody was like nice to him. Do you understand? He was like, it was like literally he had an aura. Do you understand? Or he was like advanced, more advanced than everybody. I don't know, something. Do You understand? Very interesting person. You understand? Because my whole life, I have observed how people are not just being a personality, but how they're being present before they're being a personality, and that's a completely different inner sight. Okay? And so I wondered, what is this? Like, why is this? Why are some people so comfortable being themselves, and I'm kind of like, locked into my own self, like distrusting the worlds that I perceive? And you know what I realized? It took me a while, That kid had attained something that it took me like 30 years, do you understand, to attain, right? But it was very fascinating, right? Because what I realized is that it's all in the secrets of attitude. You might not believe it, but the magic of modern times is not people doing weird ass like movements in the mirror. What it is, the magic of this modern world is attitude shifting. That means somebody says something rude, you could believe it and go and fight in their mind, or you could just shift your attitude and just literally move on and ignore as if that moment doesn't exist for you. Do you understand? So you have free will, not just to move your physical body. Oh, young people of the world, you have free will in your inner realms. And trust me, all the children who on this planet are talented and gifted in instruments or something, it's because they have been alone and fascinated. You become skillful in anything you are fascinated by. Or if you right now have any skill, it's because you've been fascinated to understand how something works. I tried out a mechanical engineering program at university just to see if I'm, if it fits my, who I am. This was years ago in the UK. And you know what it was? I began to realize that everything comes to the unknown. And the unknown becomes the responsibility to do something new. Do you understand? Like the smartest people on this planet have no pre-planned action. They're looking at the new. Do you understand? I have a twin brother. He is a very incredible, advanced person. You know what's funny? I'm starting to notice, like the reason I'm talking, like everybody was more advanced than me as a kid. I don't know what was, or I perceive some sort of advancement in everybody. For me, when I look at human beings, they're not just human beings. There's an unknown viewing force moving that body. And I have no idea if that unknown viewing force sees itself as human, sees itself as energy, sees itself as language, sees itself as da-da-da-da-da, whatever list you want to go. And guys, if these sentences I say like lead to something in your inner realms, like share, like, you know what I'm saying, like respond to the important points of these lectures, because you are an unknown being as much as I am. There is no, yo, that guy's holy. It's like, yo, man, the world is holy. It's unknown. Everything's unknown. God is not something that is conceivable, so how can man conceive it? When I say when heaven reincarnated on earth, I should say when heavenly potential reincarnated on earth. Do you know? Okay, I corrected the title, guys. The title is way better now. I think this is the best thing I could have done right now. Anyways, to continue. My fascination is with the most advanced state that the species can attain. I am done looking for individual enlightenment because there is a species here. Do you understand? That means after you find your own individual enlightenment, the collective enlightenment is here. Now, granted, it is true that once you find your individual enlightenment, then in some sense, like, that's when you can value and notice the collective enlightenment. Anyways, to continue. Honestly, I've just thought about it. Is it possible to build paradise on Earth? And I realized that's the only thing left to do. Imagine the staircase to paradise were all the artificial paradises we had to cross. All the phases of human history where we had to advance ourselves through the faith of the whole system. You know, when I was younger, I was foolish enough to think that I knew people. That I knew anyone. And when I realized all that I'm knowing is my mind, it suddenly became meaningless to start seeing people as like giving people value. Sorry, I should say it differently. With perceiving people's archetypes through my own biased value. You know, I had an experience today. I was driving in the highway. Very surreal experience. Very poetic. Sometimes people don't know this, but there's a poetic dimension that's always been open in my life. And it's kind of like based on also the culture I was raised in. People don't know this, but a lot of, there's a lot of mystical poets came from Tehran, like from Iran. Sorry, guys. Okay.
You can grab your phone and two friends.
So to continue, sorry about that. And guys, let me put this plain croissant I bought on the side. Okay. And somebody would be like, Mr. Within, did you buy a plain croissant because you're enlightened? And I'll be like, no, man, it's just, simple taste. Yeah. Anyways. I keep distracting myself and getting distracted. I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm wondering about, I'm trying to solve this problem, okay? And let me formulate the problem here. And the problem is, if we can have the most advanced thing here happen, what would that look like? In the outer realms, to me, that took the sacred form of the advanced civilization idea. The idea of the advanced civilization to me is divine. Why? Because it's as divine as the greatest potential of the creations of God. That means the advanced civilization is like the greatest potential of man's union with his divine, presence. Or with his, with how he is in the divine presence. Divinity doesn't mean, like other world storytelling. Believe it or not, divinity has to do with the idea of the heart. The thing I wanted to tell you, I had this experience in the highway today. This was very poetic for me. I might even dedicate a poetic book to this, but it was bizarre. I felt like 8 billion. I felt for my mind, for some reason, for a moment in my inner realms, simulated everybody on the planet, like fist bumping, like knocking, as if on my heart, as if it was a door. And I just felt like it was like as if, imagine like that intensity of 8 billion people banging on your heart like it's a door. As if it, and I was like, how poetic, they're banging to see if it opens. And so in, monotheistic religion, there is an acknowledgement and there is this idea that only that which is created you can unseal your heart. And when your heart is unsealed, you see a different world on this planet. You see a different way of this planet. You see a planet that is watched after. You see the power of the religious archetype. You see a world where there is a caretaker, where even if we fail, we're like, God doesn't fail, it's all good, everybody smile, But at the same time, why should man fail when we are in the presence of God? If we are in the presence of that which created us, we must perform the greatest performance of them all. And to in some sense show that God's creation was not a mistake that destroyed each other. What was a mistake was in some sense, and how can I tell you, we forgave ourselves. Do you understand? God sent, what it is? I think this was what happened, right? I think in the Adam and Eve story, when God was like, yo, why do you guys eat from the apple? And they were just like silent. They didn't say like, yo, the snake told us, or like, yo, man, you created this place. I don't know. Like, they didn't fight back, Adam and Eve. They were silent. And God was, I think that's when God was like shocked, like, well, yo, why isn't my creation defending its own honor? Do you understand? And then God was like, okay, this is like a sin, yo. Excuse me, guys, I don't want to be rude. I'm just trying to paint the picture that man did not know his heavenly worth, and that's why he became man. The soul did not realize the majesty of the soul. Do you understand? Why do you think in like, for example, in the Islamic religion, the idea of Islam, just the concept, means submission, and people are like, yo, what is this, right? But what is it a submission of? Is it an outer realm submission? Are you like a robot having to prostrate all the time? Or is it another thing? Is it that you are acknowledging that you do not know enough? Do you understand? The same conclusion that the religious person comes is similarly the same conclusion that the non-religious person comes, that we are limited. But in the religious context, the world is alive because it's the divine will of the Creator moving everything. Do you understand? That means you can say there is an element above all physical periodic table elements, and this is called the God element. And the God element means it's consciousness. Do you understand? It's back in the day, the ancients were wise. They said there weren't 4 elements: earth, air, fire, water. Fool the airbender children. It was fire, earth, air, fire, water, and ether. Ether was space. They noticed space. They were like, yo, I see fire, I see water, I see earth, I see air, but I also see the stuff in between, man. What is this? Do you see? I'm noticing space between stuff. Like there's space here. And people were like, yeah, you know, atheists are like, yo, man, how could these guys think they were souls? Because they don't understand that there's an awareness here. Like, what can you say to it? Consciousness is not something you can touch, but it's what's experiencing all the touch. My God, I'm so popular tonight. Oh my God. Sorry, guys, to continue. What can I say? You know, in the outer realms, we feel like fools, and in the inner realms, we feel like badass, like, you know, destined for greatness beings, I guess, you know, like. You know, I think greatness is a very beautiful idea, but it's an idea that, like, think about what blessing advantage the human species has. Just from a tactical, strategic position, whoever is listening, any advanced communicator and pilots in this universal sector that are listening, advancement, if it starts in the outer realms, subjectively, that means if an ego tries to advance, it's impossible. This is why outer realm power gets frightened when otherworldly power demonstrates itself, or it reveals itself. So what this means is it's about a feeling. Do you know how, like, there was this incredible movie scene, and one of my favorite movies of all time, like up there with Gladiator, like second place, I guess this gets, is the movie Hero. And in the movie Hero, there's a scene where the guy's telling the story, and both soldiers are in this battlefield, right? One of them is a cop, the other one is like the guy with the spear, and it's raining, and some guy's playing music, and they fight in their minds, as if they're just holding their swords from a distance, and they're fighting in their minds, like chess masters, fathoming all the ways that the other one can move and attack, and what skill level, just by feeling and the presence of the other. Do you know? When I was younger, do you know, maybe for a little time, maybe I think for maybe like a few years, I thought like, yo, man, I'm so badass, great, good. You know, then I realized, man, the world is not that great. Do you know, what sort of greatness am I claiming in a place that's not that great, right? So we got to make it great. How do we make it great? We realize we have the advantage of consciousness. What does that mean? That means there's 8 billion inner world, because there's 8 billion people looking at the world, there's 8 billion inner versions of the world, okay? This is your private mind island, you know? So this means that there is 8 billion views towards one problem. That's the advantage we have. We have 8 billion unknown points of consciousness, conscious variables, you know, and these conscious factors, let's say, it's just we have to utilize it. It's such a smart place to utilize. Okay, so let me tell you what this would mean. This would technically mean there's 8 billion inner ways to build paradise, 8 billion inner realm paradises we can build. There's a potential for 8 billion and more advanced civilizations in the inner realms. So many. Do you understand? People don't understand. They're in the future, science fiction. That's why I'm moving into being a science fiction writer. People don't understand. Science fiction is going to be the most incredible thing in the future, because we're going to learn to love our future rather than fearing it. And that's when you become an advanced being. But if you fear your future, you're going to act like you just love everything now and hide. You have to realize your incompleteness to realize how you can become complete. So what this means is there is a potential of 8 billion human beings on this planet behaving in 8 billion advanced ways. All these advanced ways, and the way I call it, this is the Mr.Within strategy to indefinitely bypass extinction on Earth. People don't believe this, but this is the main work. This is like my life's work here I'm sharing. And anybody who's an early bird, you know, it's like, you know, you'll be honored, of course. There's a story in Persian mythology shared by this poet named, very legendary poet named Farid al-Din Attar of Nishapur, the town of Nishapur in Iran. And Attar, he shared in his poetry book this image, this visionary image, okay, of the phoenix. And in phoenix, in the Farsi language, they call it sea morg. Okay, now there's a reason they call it that, which I'm going to tell you the story. So in his poetry, Attar says, all the birds in the world, laptop has 9% battery, okay. All the birds on the planet flied into the sky to look for the phoenix, to look for the greatest bird, the most advanced bird of all, okay? The most remarkable, the most brilliant, the most incredible bird ever to exist. They went looking for this legend of the phoenix, okay? But at the time, they didn't know what the phoenix is. They're just looking for the greatest bird, okay? And they fly the skies endlessly until suddenly masses of the birds get tired, and just like an iceberg breaking bit by bit, all the birds fly away, and there's like, yo man, we can't reach this advancement. There is no great bird, you know, there is no something like the greater truth or advanced possibility or something beyond extinction or beyond some, you know, it's like there isn't something more than human nature being a natural phase of, you know, a phase in nature. These birds, all of them get tired except 30. Except 30 of these birds remain, and these 30 birds are endlessly flying, endlessly fearless. That means they're like, yo, what's the point of having energy in a world without the truth of it realized? Right? And so they're endlessly flying towards the most advanced possibility of their perspective, of their conscious presence, view. You are way more advanced than ideological truth. But ideological truth is how we're working now as creatures, or what we're working through. So at the end of it, okay, 30 birds remain, and then these 30 birds realize, this is the genius of Attar's poetry, these 30 birds realize that they are the phoenix. Do you understand? So the idea is there's 8 billion beings. All these 8 billion beings walk to the most advanced state possible. The most advanced state possible in the outer realms is the idea of the advanced civilization. In the inner realms, I call it the idea of advanced communication, but you can make it synonymous to enlightenment. So when heaven reincarnated on earth, the heavenly potential is there. You see, this is why certain mystics were like, yo, release the inner light. And people were like, what are you saying? Am I a son? You know, and they're like, you're somebody's son. And it's like, no, seriously, am I a son? What do you mean release my inner light? And it meant that once you appreciate the world you're in, a world, if you can find a world to appreciate, then your great work begins. A world you can trust is where a world your soul enters your mind, poetically. Like your presence is way more advanced of an intelligent movement. Like when you move as a presence, you're being your whole moment rather than just a localized specific part of it, which is your body in the moment. So what I'm trying to say is, even religion is telling us, something that all the angels bowed to made a mistake, but it's something that it was the greatest of creation. Do you understand? We are not the greatest of creation. I mean, there's greater beings, but I'm saying, like, we were a great creation. And this great creation has a very great potential. And that's all that's being activated, because everything is storytelling. I realized this when I had the privilege of traveling around certain parts of the world. Do you know? I began to see cultural programs, different languages. The moment you speak someone's language, it's like you've known them for a long time. But when you can't speak someone's language, who is this strange being in front of me? It's so easy to judge what we don't know. That's the problem of, I would say, Western youthful culture, right? In Eastern culture, at least there was a sort of strictness to say, yo, respect your elders, But in Western culture, they're living like truly spiritual beings. They're like, I don't care about your age, everybody's free will. It's like a free-for-all, right? Everybody's on their own, right? But let me tell you, there are so many ways that human beings can. I think of it this way: if I was to cook like a filet mignon, which I have no idea how to go about doing that, but if I was to think I attempted and trying it out or whatever, I would probably make a version of it. But then my mind thinks, okay, then 100% there's an advanced chef on this planet that could make this way better than me. So that means the idea that there is somebody on this planet who could do something more advanced than me is a very comforting idea to me. But it also is an idea that means it can be done. That means if like Chef Ramsay can cook filet mignon, right? That means when I think about, some random guy like trying to cook filet mignon, Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm saying, when I realize I can't do something, I wonder, is there somebody on this planet who could do this more advanced? And when I realize there is, I'll be like, yo, I can 100% do this. Do you understand? Because it can be done. At least my mind doesn't have to constantly check to see, can it be done? Can it be done? Is this a waste of time? Can it be done? Once it sees there's a possibility. Do you understand? Once you see that there have been so many advanced beings in this world, but many of them have silently walked. But now we're in the information age. Our silence has turned into, endless cyber conversations, really. We have converted universal silence into the divinity of linguistic worlds. All that I'm saying is, like, I'm honestly like, this could be my problem. But I think it's the species' problem. And somebody could come and challenge me on this. But I think what the issue is that everybody is waiting. Everybody is waiting for something that has to be authorized internally, not externally. Guys, my laptop's going to end, so thank you for listening. I'm going to go on the other laptop and come back for part 2. So thanks for listening.